Everybody.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good.
Going, Jamal.
Good. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get our panelists started. I'm Jamal Whitlow, your panelist for today's topic, which is ex-offender experience. Um, Thank you all for joining me. I want to briefly give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves to everybody. So, Alex, we'll start with you.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Ex-Offender Experience panel. I'm excited to be here. I am Special Assistant to Mayor Lee Harris here in Shelby County. And I'm originally from Shreveport, Louisiana, made my way to Memphis a few years ago, knowing that there is a rich history of community activism and wanting to involve myself specifically in more criminal justice reform work. The murder of Mike Brown changed my life. And so that has quite literally brought me here, sadly, and it's complicated, but it's brought me here. And so, yeah, I'm glad to be here. I'm currently working on a ban the box ordinance here in Shelby County. Thankfully, we've got Commissioner Milton here who has sponsored the ordinance, so we're thankful for his support, and we've also got Director Collins of our Office of Reentry who has been supportive along the way and has helped us kind of shape how it looks and has been supportive. So I'm glad to be here.
Okay, Director Collins.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Harold Collins. I am the Executive Director of the Shelby County Office of Reentry here in Memphis, Tennessee. We serve those persons who have been convicted of crimes, or in this case now, justice involved, who come to our office for services, anywhere from drug screening all the way up to training and certifications. I'm a former Memphis City Councilman, served in the District Attorney's Office for 8 years, and I've been at this post now since October of 2018. We're excited about what we're doing in Shelby County, changing lives for sustainable jobs and positions, and we look forward to the conversation this afternoon. Thank you.
What was that again?
Well, hello, I'm County Commissioner Reginald Milton, a lifelong Memphian. My real hard work, though, is I am a community organizer. I run a nonprofit in South Memphis and Orange Mound called SMA, and we work with mostly foster youth who are often connected in some way with our criminal justice system. So I have a great deal of experience as far as dealing with those who are trying to get their lives back in order and deal with the challenges of many of the hurdles that I think in my view that our society has put in place that makes it difficult for them to do that. Thank you.
And I'm Ken Lemon. I'm a reporter, WSOC TV in Charlotte, crime reporter for much of my career, Emmy and AP award winning. Also, I am Vice President for the National Association of Black Journalists and National Chairman of the Black Male Media Project for NABJ, National Association of Black Journalists.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Seem to be having a little technical issues. I apologize if it's
All right.
chopping up on you guys. I want to jump into our first question. And our first question is going to be directed to Director Harold Collins. What are some of the systems of support that you have seen to be successful to help ex-offenders?
Great question, Jamal. We have what we call the buffet of opportunity for our clients here in Shelby County. Initially, when we first got started, we only focused on those persons who were already released from penal institutions or our Shelby County Division of Corrections. And we provided an opportunity to change the paradigm, so to speak. Initially, we were all focusing on soft skills. And when we arrived, we quickly realized that through Mayor Harris's vision and commitment that we needed to change that to sustainable and hard skills. Those hard skills means certifications and jobs that will transfer from one city to another, one state to another. They are recognized through the National Certification Registry. And so we do now the soft skill training to get them ready for the hard skills, but then after that, we've moved them to what we call training or the focus program that includes welding, plumbing, electrical work, HVAC, our small engine repair center that we have on campus, you name it. Those are the types of skills now that we are placing and employing our clients to get into, simply because where we live in Memphis, the demographics and the job opportunities are here. And so if a client comes to us and say, you know, I love computer programming, then we have what we say an app for that. We can plug you into Code Crew. And so we have relationships with Tennessee College of Applied Technology, relationships with Southwest Community College. So it is a gambit of opportunity. And the good news is, because of the partnerships we have with our Access or the American Job Center and our new partner, ResCare, most of these opportunities are free because we have the ability to pay tuition for these clients who come to us, along with the Tennessee opportunities to pay tuition free at Southwest Community College. And so these are opportunities that we feel provide sustainable jobs and careers to our clients. And though that's just a little snapshot, and I'm sure Commissioner Milton can chime in on what he does, but certainly at the Office of Reentry, our focus now is hard skills so that our clients and their families can move out of poverty, which has crippled us for so many years.
Well, I'll chime in from there if you like.
Yes.
First of all, let me thank Mayor Lee Harris administration, Harold, the great work you're doing there. It is truly, this is the yeoman's work, is that these are often people who feel that no one's there for them. And to have this in place is critical if we're going to make a change. My end, I take it again a twofold as a county commissioner, is to be supportive of many of the initiatives the mayor brings forward, and I have been, and I will continue to be, because I believe the mayor is on the right track. Dealing from a community perspective, though, many of the people who find themselves in this situation, the challenge is not just about trying to get the services which are provided, but it's also the issues that plague them, the barriers, the things that hold them, and often is family, is community, is health issues, be it mental, be it addiction, and things of this nature, which are, again, as I mentioned earlier, are hurdles that for many of them is difficult to overcome. So it is a process which is not just a selective of one, and that I think everyone, and you'll find every one of the panelists here will understand that and make this point quite clear. It is, you have to come at this from many different perspectives, many different angles, because it's so many different challenges that keep many of these individuals where they are. For those of us who are fortunate to have avoided those things, it may seem like, well, you know, if I've done it, why can't everyone else? Well, you know, that's not how the real world works. A lot of times people do want to make changes, but the forces that makes it very difficult. And one of them that mentions the ban the box, which I'm very proud that Mayor Lee Harris has been pushing, and the county commission last night at the third reading has approved. It has to go through a fourth reading, and there are some efforts there, some who don't support it. Fortunately, there are many who do. But it's going to chip away at each of these factors, I think, that will make the real difference. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Those are two good answers. Just to move, somebody has something to say? Just to move right along, Alex, since we talk about ban the box, that's a good transition. Alex, I wanted to ask you a little bit, if you could explain to us maybe what are some of the misconceptions people have about the ban the box initiative?
There are a few things. I think the big misconception about ban the box is that, and for, I assume that everyone here knows, but I'll just explain it, that ban the box is taking the box off of employment applications that asks, have you ever been convicted? And so this effort, a lot of misconception around it is that it jeopardizes public safety when we remove that question from employment applications. I would venture to say that Ban the Box is a public safety initiative. What we often see is that that people with records that are employed are twice as likely not to commit an additional crime than their unemployed counterparts. So when we offer those opportunities, we begin to see that there's less crime happening in our communities. And employment is the most significant factor, according to several studies, to reduce second, third, fourth offenses from happening. So I think that's a big misconception. I think also that that a lot of a misconception is that it brings risk to employers. So we've had a lot of conversation with our different divisions and offices that might be scared, or initially were scared about, well, I don't know if I want to hire somebody with a conviction. Does this mean that I'm bringing someone dangerous into the office? There are many ways to do ban the box, but just eliminating the box, it really is just lifting the barrier for people that often the door is closed on from the get-go. And it doesn't mean that it will bring any kind of danger to your office, or that we can't consider convictions. This is a matter of EEOC guidance in which we would not further discriminate against people with records. It's lifting that initial barrier. So it's I think it's around those two pieces that it jeopardizes public safety, and that it's a risk to employers, that I think the data shows us is just not true.
Quick question to follow up on. Do you think that this initiative would charge the private sector to also start eliminating, getting rid of, and banning the boxes on their employment? Because this is just an internal county piece, correct?
Right. Right now. So as Commissioner Milton mentioned, I think there are some efforts from a couple of county commissioners here in Shelby County to expand this to vendors. We'll have to see how that plays out, but the intention of the original ordinance is that we would get our house together first, that we would lead the way in county government first, and that hopefully that would be an example to the private sector. And I think that there are also examples that just need to be more publicized, that there is, Walmart, Target, big industries that hire people with convictions. So there are a lot of examples of employers that have done this, that testify to how people with convictions that they hire, and that they know that they hired with convictions, they work harder, they get promoted faster. So there's a lot of data out there, I think, that just can come through these kind of conversations that would be encouraging to the private sector, and kind of lift some of the fears that come with eliminating that question.
And just to piggyback on that, I also know from having some experience working in the workforce investment network that employers also have training dollars and opportunities available to them, up to 75% reimbursable if they are willing to take on ex-offenders and help train them for positions within their company, their jobs. And so just want to also look, those resources are also out there on the state level as well, and funding is available for employers too. So great point, you guys. Okay, as we get ready to ask our final question, this is going to be from my guy, Ken Lemon. How does the way Black people or Black men are portrayed in the media play on the How do you think that affects the Black community and the Black men themselves?
Well, I mean, there are a couple of folds. So one, within the Black community, there's a level of mistrust, the feeling that you come around when something bad happens, that you're not there when something good happens, and that you're not invested in the full story that is the community. We have that opportunity once a year through Black Male Media Project to really do a media takeover. For the past 3 years, COVID really messed us up this year, but what we have done is we have designated the first or second weekend in June as our Black Male Media Project Day. And on those days, we hold in as many cities as possible. So roughly about 20 some cities, we hold events, Black Male Media Project events. This is to do just a few things. One, internally for us, we know that when there are more Black people in decision-making processes, those stories get told. And so it is doing what we can to support those people who will come through the system, who will come into the media, who will come into those newsrooms and make sure that they have long and sustainable careers. But it's also to take a real look at the contributions of Black men. And if you look through our hashtag, Inspired Black Men on Twitter, you'll see some of those impressive images of young men. So take, for instance, the thing that we did here in Charlotte. One of the things that we did is we identified 5 young Black males who were needing that extra oomph. We purchased ties. We had everyone from TV reporters to a general manager of a TV news station to producers, and we all went out and we delivered those ties to them at their home. In addition to that, it was an invite to a webinar because, you know, we're social distancing. We came back, and during that webinar, we talked to them about what it means to be a man. We learned how to tie ties together. And then we talked about some of the real life experiences that we are facing as journalists, even as Black journalists. Even one Black journalist who didn't know it until the FBI informed him that he was being targeted by supremacist groups for attack. One thing that does on a couple of levels is it allows us to interact with individuals. It allows us to say, this is a safe space for you to come get involved, to help tell the story. It also allows us through that hashtag, and we trend, 1, 2, 3 regularly on any day, but 2020 with COVID, where we can show those images of Black men, young Black men in their communities, Black men with thoughts, ideas, expressions to give. And the one thing that we switch and we begin working on now is that criminal record aspect. And so the thing that the Black Male Media Project is now working on is when you have incidents where there are encounters with police, where does that criminal record belong? Because a lot of times it gets touted and brought out, and our concern is that it comes up as an excuse for committing acts against them, sometimes fatal acts against them. And oftentimes we know that the criminal record has little to do with the encounter that brings the individual in contact with the law enforcement officer. So those are some of the components we're working on as well.
We're going to go ahead, and I think I'm supposed to jump. I do have a question for Commissioner Milton real quick. I'm curious to know what got you in, where's your passion? What got you in your passion for this criminal justice reform and in this actual space?
To be honest with you, this is something you fall into in some degree, is that you see things that happen in life and you take a choice. Is that it's something you ignore or something you want to make a difference in? It became a passion. If you had asked me 20, 30 years ago, would this be the path that I would be taking, I would have probably told you no. I think God leads you to some degree. I think life itself, and here I am, and I'm very happy with what I do. I will say one of the challenges I see is that there is an effort. If you look, and I'm gonna try to do this very quickly, is that as a county commissioner, I see how we direct our funding. We have turned our schools and our police department, our law enforcement, into basically that drawer that you have in your kitchen. The one where if you don't know where to put something, you put it in that drawer right there. And that's where our schools and our law enforcement has become, is as we cut services and we cut funding to these services, we see these things that come up that are needed, the people who have needs and assistance, and instead of providing that assistance, we turn law enforcement on them, or we say, well, we'll let the schools take care of it. And the reality, these institutions that we've created were never designed to do that. And I will tell you, watch it's a documentary. It's only about an hour long. It's called Seattle is Dying. If you've not seen it, go see it. It is a great example of propaganda toward the negative. It makes it, if you watch it from at the beginning, you'll think, wow, I'm starting to agree with them. And you quickly realize how they're manipulating the viewers into believing that the answer and the solution is that these people who have fallen between the cracks, they are the predators, and we are the victims, and we must punish them, or we must get them out of our society. It's called Seattle is Dying. It is absolutely a horrible documentary that has been done extremely well. It's worth watching just to learn how people are trying to turn the message the wrong way.
And you said the name of it is Seattle is Watching.
No, Seattle is Dying.
Seattle is Dying. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Worth watching.
All right, bet.
And then completely forgetting.
At the same time.
Exactly.
Okay, great. I'm going to jump. We've got some questions that have been posted in our Q&A. So I'm just kind of run through to make sure that we answer some of the people's questions. I don't know if this one's been answered in its entirety, but we've got Ricky Newell asked, are there resources to help assist ex-offenders in expunging their criminal records? And I think Director Collins, you may be able to speak to some of those resources specifically.
Yes, several. Of course, there have been several expungement fairs that have been in the past here in Shelby County. Our office did one last spring. We serviced almost 700 people. The expungement resources occur when all of the parties get together. Our office, the district attorney's office, the public defender's office, and the clerk's office gets together. We review the cases that are an individual has been convicted of. I can tell you in Tennessee, there are certain cases that cannot be expunged, and there are others that can. And then it's about paying the court costs and the fines that lead up to those cases. And then all of those have to be taken care of before you can even file the petition in court to be heard by a judge to have your cases expunged. And then after that, there's funding through the city of Memphis. I know the city council in last year's budget put close to $400,000 away to attribute to help offset that cost. And then I believe the county clerk's office or the general sessions court clerk's office provided resources, but there's also a way to do it through indigency. Judges know that if you're not able to pay these costs and fines, which most of the offenders cannot do, you have to complete an affidavit of indigency and have that heard before a judge, and then the judge will allow you and those fines to be absorbed. But that's how it typically works.
Okay. Oh, we've got another question. Let's see. I think some of them questions are similar. This one is a little bit off, but it's still in the justice space, and I just want to make sure we answer our viewers' questions. One is, we don't have to spend long. I know it's a hot topic because everybody's going to have something to say. But why do we think there's heavier policing over in Black communities versus the way white and more affluent communities are policed? Whoever wants to take a stab at that.
Real quickly, obviously one of the things that we go back and we look at the situation under President Nixon, when we had President of the United States actually declare war on American people and use the excuse of drugs as the issue. The reality is that we have militarized our police force. And you've heard the issue about trying to defund police. And I've had some activists saying, well, we should have come up with probably a better name, because the reality is what we're trying to do is take some funding and direct it not toward incarcerating, because the truth is we do a good job of incarcerating. This country is A1 when it comes to putting people in jail. No one can beat us. We're the best at it. The reality is it's not solving the problem. And to come to the point of what do we do about that, and maybe directing some of those funds to actually address the reasons why people find themselves within our judicial system. My response to many of them, it doesn't matter what we call it. We could call it making it a great day to help everyone. They still would twist into something else bad. The reality is that we have to start looking outside the box and trying different things if we're gonna solve this problem, because 97% of people who are incarcerated will get out someday.
Anybody else want to chime in?
Jamal,
Yes.
Jamal, the other piece to this is in our communities, we don't have the access to contact other licensed professionals to handle the issues that face us in our community. And so I read and heard this morning that an individual with mental health issues, people are going to call the police because that's the quickest way to get something resolved, to get that individual out of their community. And so that's why many times police officers over police in our communities, because in our communities, we typically don't know many of the resources that are available to us outside of the police. And so we need to do a better job of educating our community what's available to them, so that they don't have to call the police every time there's a issue that could be resolved without having police involved.
And to that point, again, just real quick, was that it was the perfect storm when you had Ronald Reagan and the ACLU agree on closing down our mental institutions.
Yeah.
And there was just no answer to what to do with these individuals. And basically, we have turned our prisons into our mental institutions. We are just housing these people. And the reality is, if we want this to change, we're going to have to invest in it. And we're going to have to look at this beyond just policing these individuals.
Okay. I'm trying to see if some people have some questions in this return thing. Okay. I guess maybe we could also look at the ex-offender experience when it comes to, we can probably reiterate on the employment piece a little bit and talk a little bit more into other ways and possibly to challenge employers and make those demands. And that original Commissioner Milton, I heard you mention earlier something about, or Alex mentioned something about commissions trying to have a stronger hold on potentially vendors that the county uses. Can you explain a little bit more about that, or am I like stepping like, or what that could possibly look like? I'm not trying to get anything started. I'm just asking a question.
Alex, please.
Sure. So I believe that, in short, that the amendments to the ordinance would include that the county would offer incentive through points in our purchasing system for vendors who ban the box in their hiring process. Again, I think we have to see how it plays out. State law prohibits us from doing a lot, so I think we have to, gain a little more guidance on the legal side of things. But I think this is where we're at now, is that there's an effort to make it stronger, which I am here for. I commend. There's states that have done it across the U.S. There are cities and counties that have done it across the U.S. We just have to see how it pans out in the next few weeks.
I favor us going with the carrot instead of the stick, and I think that's what we're leaning toward, is trying to make the businesses partners in this situation. Trying to regulate and force, I think, always creates a situation where it's adversarial and it in the end doesn't work. But I think many of the businesses want to see change, and I think we can work with them and make it happen.
I asked the question because I once had the opportunity to work with ex-offenders and get them employed, and I felt like there was a huge challenge by trying to really get them to gain willful employment. And on the other side, as one of the practitioners on that side, I think it's important to talk about, or don't mind highlighting, what is it that we need ex-offenders to do as we are out here advocating, as we are advocates for justice, for equality, for these things? What do we need to charge the ex-offenders to do to help us in the situation and help move the situation along further? Like, what can they do as well?
If I can answer that. I think that I would expand it beyond ex-offenders. I think I would tend to not put the burden on the person that's affected, though their experience and their experience is useful. And of course, we can all be included. I say all this to say that we all have work to do here. And I think that speaking to the question about, it goes back to policing in Black and brown communities, that we have systemic racism, we have mass incarceration, a system that arrests, convicts, and incarcerates Black and brown people disproportionately. And so I think we have to explore more of that, bring more policies that address our incarceration system that does not set primarily Black and brown people up to not be able to get these jobs. So we look at the unemployment rate among ex-offenders, and generally it's 27%. But then the Prison Policy Initiative shows us data where it jumps up to 44% unemployment among formerly incarcerated Black women. It jumps up to 35% for formerly incarcerated Black men. And so I think we have to address the systems that are in place, and we all have a part in that. We have advocates, we have the rabble rousers, we have the policymakers. We have so many parts that we can all play. I think it's just identifying our gifts and our strengths and working together with those to come up with some real policies that address the problems at a systemic level.
Okay. I have a question for Mr. Lemon. You got one, somebody hit you up on the hotline. Question is, can you speak to how to find more reliable and unbiased news sources?
And the amazing thing is that both of those things are typically easy to find. A lot of local news entities, particularly right now in the climate, are doing a much better job at reporting the news from that center position. The bad news is that you have a lot of folks out there who found a niche, and their niche is reporting to a particular group with a particular point of view. And social media and other outlets that people turn to get information, and sometimes news tend to really exasperate that. That means that people are going out there and looking for their side in the issue. One of the things that we try to do is we try to educate people that, when you're doing that, you rob yourself of the opportunity to understand what's really happening in the world. You'll be able to find more than your fair share of news groups, and not even news groups, but nowadays you'll even find subsets within a Facebook group, subsets within a Twitter group that will feed you the information from your point of view, and that doesn't necessarily always do the best justice. Typically, some of the national, and I'm talking news outlets, because there's a big difference between what I do as a journalist and what somebody may do when they lend their opinion to the story as a columnist. Typically when you find, and even in those that you believe are the most skewed, when you look at the actual news, it tends to be a whole lot different than when you hear the pundits and the individuals speaking their mind and interjecting their thoughts and their opinions to the story beyond allowing the facts to speak and the audience to make the decision on what that actually is. And I'm really glad you said that, because we see this now more than we've ever seen it. And the other opportunities that we now have to consume news really just puts us farther into a corner, such that if you really just wanted to hear all about this one thing, not even just a particular side of an issue, but just this one subject matter, you can go and find it and live in it and revel in it and to your heart's content, but it doesn't make you more informed. So some of that really is on the audience, and some of that, unfortunately, we've had to take on ourselves, where we actually, as individuals, take that opportunity to say, look, are you watching this? Have you seen that? I had an opportunity where a guy approached me at the gas station and gave his thought of what news is. And once I challenged him on what we actually report, he had to rethink his position. because when you actually look at news and view it from that point, instead of just assuming that people do this or assuming folks do that, you really have to evaluate a little bit better. I hope I best answered your question. If not, I'll be happy to answer some more.
Well, I just want you to drop a couple. If you could give me provide us with 2 or 3 news outlets that you entrust or that you like.
Well, I mean, and let me say this. That's always a real dangerous area to get in. I know that I have a big favor for the news that I consume on a regular basis. I grew up watching ABC News and watching NBC News. Those are 2 that I know are actually looking for that information that I trust. What you really need to do is you really need to be critical wherever you are. If it's not feeding you what you need, one thing I tell people is looking at a group of producers, looking at overnight news will tell you, we watch what you follow. So go to what feeds you, and will feed you what you believe is that truth right from the middle. And we will follow, because we will watch and see if you're leaving us. We can almost mark it to the point or tell to the point where we've hit that story that you've clicked off and gone somewhere else. And we can understand exactly what it is that somebody else is doing that we need to do better, and vice versa. So that answers your question? Yeah, Jamal.
You did. Thank you.
All right. Yes, sir.
Okay, I am looking through my chats trying to see if there's any additional questions. Anybody?
And while you look, I just want to add one more thing. I know this was an important point when I was asked to come on that I really appreciate, and that is an effort by news entities and heavily on print entities to get rid of the mugshots. I've found, particularly when I post online, that some of those most degrading, most off-putting comments come when you place a mugshot up. The mugshots serve a purpose, so I see individuals and papers and what have you saying, we're going to use this only in instances where it is a murder, only when public trust has been violated, which is understandable, as opposed to what we saw 10, 15 years ago, and that is where news entities understood that if I put out a paper with as many mugshots as possible, people are going to pick it up, they're going to read it, and I can augment the money that I'm losing because people are choosing to go online and people are choosing to go away from us, to actually saying that doesn't do a value to us. It doesn't do a value to our reader, to our listener, to our viewer, to our consumer. And it oftentimes will give the public the wrong impression of an individual, and people have to live with that. That doesn't go away.
But Ken, isn't it, if I may, isn't it one of the frustration aspects that the news agencies now is more of, if it bleeds, it leads kind of attitude? Is that the challenge they're being faced with now? You have to keep that audience.
Well, you do have to keep the audience, but here's one thing that trends are they're really showing us is that the if it bleeds, it leads model that was really heavy years ago has been completely upset by the people wanting to get more in-depth news and content about subject matter. The bleeds, it leads means, a quick, fast, several stories up, and not really giving you the information that you want about that. So what we're now starting to see that's happening more often is that you have news entities that are doing hour-long specials. The entity that I work for here in Charlotte just did one on community and policing. We're doing a special every month, every day in the month of June. We did one on housing, looking at the affordable housing issue, and we did an hour-long special on that. We did one on mental health. People want that information. Viewers are telling us that's what they want. Viewers are telling us we're more interested in that. This changes and impacts my life more than, as my mama used to say, who shot Paul? And we are starting to answer to that. So that is another way that consumers are telling us exactly what they're interested in. And that's how you can, with your clicker, that's a buying power. Just as much as when you walk in the store and say, give me more Jordans, and somebody goes, let's get more Jordans. the same way when you view news, you tell us this is what I want, and we go and we make sure we bring that to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, we are approaching the end of our workshop, and I just want to say I thank each and every one of you for providing your level of expertise, answering the questions diligently, and just giving us your time today to be here to share with us. I think I see somebody in the comments, Mr. Hillard, I'll shout you out for discussing, not labeling individuals as ex-offenders. I understand we work with young youth offenders or young people, and we've tried to stay away from the word of calling them juveniles as well. So I don't mean any harm. We are just trying to at least understand that we are classifying, not trying to classify the individuals, but just making sure people understand what it is, the topics that we're talking about. So thank you for that. I do just want to say again, thank you to Mary Harris administration for allowing us to be here. The Division of Community Services, in which I work for, we work in the Office of Justice Initiatives. I'm a program manager there, so this topic really hits heavy home. We specifically do young people. So Commissioner Milton, Director Collins, Ken Lemon, and Ms. Alex Hensley, thank you all so much for joining us today and your expertise. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Thanks.
Thank you.